All right. Well, today I'm here with Laurie Myers. I teach with Laurie at Rolla High School, but she is also adjunct instructor at University of Missouri. Missouri University of Science and Technology. I knew I was going to say that wrong because I always do. Um, Lori has her master's in art education, and she did her capstone over design thinking. And design thinking is something I'm aware of, but it's not something that I maybe overtly do on purpose. And so I would really like to get her thoughts on design thinking and share a little bit about that with us today. So, Lori, would you like to go ahead and tell us a little bit about this?
All right, excellent. Well, first of all, design thinking changed my whole way of teaching, my whole style of teaching. After I had been teaching for almost 25 years, I thought I had it figured out. And then I learned more about design thinking and did my research on that for my master's. And it just is a breath of fresh air and just wonderful. You know, problem solving is nothing new, but this process that was actually this particular process that I have listed up here was created by the Kelly brothers, and they have implemented that in the B school at Stanford. And it's just so amazing. It doesn't matter how old you are, or how young you are. It's even better if there are a lot of different types of people with different perspectives and whatnot. But basically, in a nutshell, design thinking is is collaborating to solve a problem to make life better. But it's human centered. It's a human centered method. So if you see the first little tile there, it says empathize. So the very first thing that you want to encourage is empathetic research. How Not how would that make that person feel, but go out and experience that yourself. How does it make you feel? Um, so, instead of creating something cool because it's cool and you like it, you encourage your kids or your students to come together to solve a problem and there's no bad ideas. That's the other cool thing. So you set up a few ground rules like that, but you always start with learning about your audience, and it might be something as simple as where an outlet is placed. It might be that you want to give them a prompt, how to um, take water on the go or something, um, or have them come up with the things that they see are challenging that they wish they could change. Um, but yeah, so it's just collaborating to solve a problem to make life better through empathetic research. But like I said, in history, people have come together to successfully problem solve. That's nothing new. But really placing that empathetic research or using empathy is really where the key is. So in class, using this process in class, I always notice that students develop and display positive character behaviors. It's amazing. The kid that gives you the most trouble ends up being the leader, or they end up being the one who perseveres or keeps people on task. And then the kid that may be really shy sometimes ends up being the leader. It's not that old school where you assign, uh, uh, a secretary and somebody to keep things going or whatever. You let them fall into their um, leadership or their roles naturally, and it's amazing how it works. So I don't know, and in a world where we still have mandated assessments, teaching in this way, no matter what you're designing, each person brings a different set of tools, and this process teaches your students how to think and not what to think. So in turn, that helps develop them into responsible, thoughtful, engaged citizens ready to work together. So I mean, you can read, you can see, this process. But really, the only thing I give them, we start off learning by just giving them a prompt, and I do put them in groups by similarities. So, say I have 4 groups, I might say cat lovers in that corner, dog lovers in that corner. You know, you find commonalities for them so they have something at first, but you want them to be different. And then you just say there's no bad ideas and everything's positive. You know, other than that, they do start thinking about what I wish I could change or what do I wish I had. Um, and we use a lot of post-it notes. They put their ideas on post-it notes and then they determine what they're going to collaborate on. Or again, if you have a project you want them to collaborate on, um, show them this process, talk about it a little bit, and then practice going through it with some short project ideas. And yeah, it changed my whole style of teaching and made life easier for me.
I think it sounds awesome. So, is it empathize? Of course, that's the whole big picture. Is like you have to know what the audience is, right? And you're trying to design something that um, that helps everyone, right?
Well, it's whoever you're designing for.
Okay.
So, but the other thing is, uh, I mean, you can do this on the fly. Maybe a kid comes in and says, "Man, I broke my arm, and I'm right-handed. I broke my right arm." You know, you can start with something like that and say, "Guys, what would you do, or how could we do this?" and talk about it and whatnot. Or you could start off with um, a prompt that says, all right, we are going to learn a new, or we're going to design or develop a new method of transportation. And
So
then
this
you can let them get in their own groups, but I've discovered that then they don't get as much done. If you put them into
okay.
groups, but still give them some options, as in pick this or that, or maybe number them off or whatever, you know. But yeah, it's actually more specific.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it sounds like a really great process. I'm seeing a lot of 21st century skills, like the collaboration, and then just problem solving. So, I mean, I think it's just a really fantastic way to work with students, and especially even in the art room. But I could definitely see where it could be applied in other classes as well. So they're getting that it could be an interdisciplinary thing as well. So um, this is really awesome, Laurie. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Well, thank you. Yes, it can be used in any area. It just depends on what you want them to design, even if they're writing something. You know, but you can even use it as individuals. Or I use it individually on my own as well. And you don't you don't really have to start with empathy, because maybe someone's created some kind of cool little paper structure, or thrown an airplane in class or something, and you pick it up and you're like, oh, this is a pretty cool prototype. And then you can go, you know, it's basically, I guess, cyclical. Is that the right word I want to use? You can go back and forth with all of it. But the foundation is being empathetic to what you're creating.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know in my classes sometimes I've struggled with students having that personal connection. And so this seems like it would be a really good place for me to start building on how they could make those personal connections with their work. So, and I know when that happens, it's always better work than if they can't. So,
Right.
yeah, this is
And
awesome.
really, starting out with maybe some icebreakers, but I guess it depends on how long you want it to be a project. But starting out with this at the beginning of a new class helps the kids connect as well. And then when they're doing individual projects, leaving it open for them to be able to communicate, to collaborate, so they can create.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Laurie, I think we're about out of time for today, but I wanted to say thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate all of your insight here and your willingness to share today. So
Great.
thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you so much. You're an awesome teacher. So I'm
You are too. Go
honored.
work.
Ha! How'd that go? Was it too long?